Welcome to Mindful Moments. Have you ever had that feeling, where it seems like some people, well, they just don't have to play by the same rules as everyone else? Or maybe like the rules kind of, I don't know, bend a little in their favor.
Interesting.
We're looking at a story today that really plays with that idea. Like, what happens when someone totally new shows up and just, well, shakes things up? In a good way, a bad way. We're going to find out.
It makes you think about all those systems we have in place, those structures, and what happens when they get, disrupted.
Exactly. The story we're diving into is set at this, well, it's not your typical school. Think broomsticks instead of buses, and where potions class is like a real thing. It's Miss Cackle's Academy for Witches.
A place with its own unique, shall we say, rhythms and routines. And of course, a whole set of rules that, well, as you suggested, might not apply equally to everyone.
Right. And at the center of it all is Mildred Hubble. She's a third-year student, but let's just say she's known for a certain talent for attracting trouble.
A knack for the unexpected.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. And her story takes a pretty wild turn when a new teacher arrives and just, well, completely flips things on their head.
A catalyst for change.
That's a good way to put it. We'll be taking a close look at excerpts from Jill Murphy's The Worst Witch Saves the Day. It's got all those classic boarding school vibes, but with, a magical twist. So if you're ready for a bit of witchy fun and some thought-provoking insights, stick with us.
We'll see how this new authority figure, someone definitely outside the norm, shakes up this very established, if slightly quirky, world, all through Mildred's eyes.
So the story starts right at the beginning of a new term at Miss Cackle's Academy. And the year always kicks off in this, well, pretty spectacular way.
The skies above the academy are filled with, students arriving on their broomsticks. It's quite the sight to behold. It really sets the scene, establishes the magical nature of the place.
You can almost hear the whoosh of those brooms.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But amidst all this aerial excitement, we're grounded with Mildred's perspective and her main feeling, well, relief. Pure relief to be back, especially after her past experiences, shall we say, under the watchful eye of Miss Hardbroom.
Ah, Miss Hardbroom. She's like the embodiment of every strict teacher you've ever had, but with like a magical wand.
Precisely. A formidable presence. Her teaching methods are, well, let's just say she's a stickler for the rules. So Mildred's sense of relief speaks volumes about the kind of atmosphere Miss Hardbroom cultivates.
It definitely sets the stage for, well, a pretty big contrast when this new teacher comes along.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of contrast, we can't forget Ethel Hallow, that student who always seems to do everything perfectly.
Ugh, I knew an Ethel in school. Always top of the class, always following the rules.
Exactly. And in this scene, she greets Mildred with this, slightly condescending tone. It's a subtle reminder of the social hierarchy at play, with Ethel firmly at the top and Mildred, well, not quite there.
It really sets the stage for, some of the dynamics that will play out later in the story. And then boom, this announcement comes that sends a ripple of excitement through the third form.
Utter joy is how it's described.
It's not Miss Hardbroom. Their new form mistress is someone else, someone new.
This collective sigh of relief, right, it speaks volumes about what it's like to be under, well, HB's very firm hand.
Right, like imagine holding your breath for a whole year and finally being able to let it out.
Precisely. And this sets the scene for the arrival of, well, a very different kind of authority figure, Miss Granite.
Picture this. This woman walks in with this, a huge cloud of bright orange curls.
Mm-hmm.
Like seriously, a cloud. And then these enormous purple glasses.
By a spectacle.
And to top it all off,
Mm-hmm.
she's wearing this high-collared cape. Now remember, we're talking about a school where uniforms are like the ultimate in drabness.
Everything's very subdued, very uniform, as you'd expect in a place like this. But Miss Granite, well, she's a walking, talking explosion of color and, well, unconventionality.
It's almost like she's making a statement, right? Like, I am here and I'm not afraid to be different.
Absolutely. And the students' first reaction, amused. They're just like, what is going on here? And then Mildred leans over to Maud and whispers this absolutely perfect observation. She says Miss Granite's hair looks exactly like her styling brush.
Which, when you think about it, is kind of amazing, right? Like, in the middle of all this magical craziness, Mildred has this totally normal, relatable thought.
It underscores, I think, the clash between Miss Granite's, shall we say, vibrant personality and the Academy's very established aesthetic.
It's like those two worlds are colliding, and not everyone is happy about it.
No, indeed. Miss Hardbroom is, well, let's just say, unimpressed. You can practically see her disapproval radiating off of her.
Oh, I bet. She probably had her eyebrows raised so high they almost disappeared into her hairline.
She even gives Miss Granite this, well, pointed warning about Mildred, which of course only reinforces Mildred's reputation as, shall we say, someone who needs a little extra attention.
As if Mildred needs any help getting into trouble.
Quite. And then, as if her appearance wasn't enough, there's Miss Granite's voice.
Oh, the voice. Tell me about the voice.
Imagine the highest-pitched, squeakiest voice you've ever heard. That's Miss Granite. It's almost impossible to take her seriously, especially in this environment. The students are practically biting their tongues, trying not to burst out laughing.
I bet. It's like that moment when someone's trying to whisper a secret, but it comes out like a squeak.
Precisely. It's just so out of place. And it really sets her apart from the other teachers, who are all, very serious and authoritative.
Their voices probably boom through the halls, right?
Exactly. And then there's Miss Granite, this tiny, squeaky voice trying to command attention. It's a constant reminder that things are about to be very different at Miss Cackle's academy.
And that difference becomes crystal clear in Miss Granite's first potions class, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a complete departure from the norm. Imagine this. The students walk into the potions lab expecting, Miss Hardbroom's strict instructions, her detailed explanations of complex spells.
Yeah, like step-by-step instructions, warnings about what will happen if you mess up even a tiny bit.
Right, the whole 9 yards. But instead, Miss Granite tells them to, choose their own spells.
Wait, seriously?
Seriously. And then, get this, she sits down and starts knitting. Like, in the middle of the potions class.
Knitting?
Yeah.
While they're brewing potions? This is like chaos in the making.
It certainly is. And the contrast with Miss Hardbroom couldn't be more striking. Remember those hours of instruction, the warnings about dire consequences? Gone. It's like Miss Granite is throwing all that out the window.
It's like she's saying, hey, let's just see what happens.
Exactly. And it raises some really interesting questions about different approaches to education. Like, is there a place for this kind of freedom in a learning environment? Or is it just a recipe for disaster?
I mean, it sounds kind of fun, but also like incredibly dangerous when you're dealing with magic.
Right. Like, who knows what these kids might accidentally conjure up. And you know what? Mildred, bless her heart, she loves it. She says, I think it's brilliant just doing stuff on our own.
Which, for Mildred, kind of makes sense. She's always struggled within those rigid structures, right? So this newfound freedom, it's almost like a breath of fresh air for her.
It could be seen as a positive, right? A chance for her to explore and learn in a way that suits her, without all those constraints.
Yeah, like maybe she'll finally thrive in this kind of environment.
Maybe. But you know what they say about too much of a good thing? Well, it applies here, especially with Mildred involved. And this newfound freedom quickly leads to, a bit of a hairy situation. Literally.
Oh, here we go. I knew this was coming.
So it all starts with Ethel trying to help Mildred with a haircut. And I say trying because, let's just say Ethel's idea of helpful involves Mildred's own styling brush and a pair of very sharp scissors.
Oh, no. This does not sound good.
It's not. It ends with Mildred sporting a rather interesting new hairstyle.
I can only imagine.
It's bad. So to try and fix this disaster, Ethel suggests a regrowth spell from the Year 3 Spell Sessions Handbook.
The Spell Sessions Handbook? Those things are like full of complicated formulas and incantations.
They are. And this particular spell, it's a doozy. Very intricate. Mildred's not entirely confident in her ability to, decipher the formulas.
That's never a good sign.
It's not. And so, relying on Ethel's supposed expertise in math, Mildred embarks on a late-night potion brewing session in her room with Maud and Enid as her trusty assistants.
Classic boarding school shenanigans, but with a magical twist.
Exactly. And Miss Granite's approach to bedtime, let's just say she's not exactly a stickler for rules in this department either. She tells them to blow out their candles and then just, leaves.
Seriously, just leaves them to their own devices.
Seriously. This lack of supervision, it might be intended to encourage independence.
Yeah, that whole trust them to make good choices thing.
Right. But in this case, it just creates the perfect opportunity for Mildred's plan to go, spectacularly wrong.
And it does.
Right. Oh, it does. The regrowth potion works. A little too well, in fact. Mildred's hair starts to grow uncontrollably. It just keeps growing and growing.
It's like something out of a horror movie.
It's a visual representation of, what happens when you mix magic, a lack of supervision, and a healthy dose of Mildred's unique brand of chaos.
A recipe for disaster.
Exactly. And then, to make matters worse, Tabby, Mildred's cat, gets tangled in all that ever-growing hair.
Oh, no. Poor Tad.
A hair launches him right out the window.
Oh, that's awful. Yeah, it's kind of funny, but also poor Tabby.
It's definitely a mix of emotions. So we've got chaos in the corridor. Mildred's running around with this massive, ever-expanding hair trailing behind her. The other students are just like, what in the world is going on?
It must be like something out of a dream.
And just when you think things couldn't get any crazier, guess who shows up?
Let me guess, Miss Hardbroom.
Miss Hardbroom.
Yeah.
And she delivers this perfectly timed, dry remark about a bad hair day.
Oh, she's got jokes.
She does. It's a moment of dark humor that really underscores her, enduring authority, even in the face of this ridiculous situation.
Like, she's not fazed by anything.
Not at all. And thankfully, she quickly puts a stop to the runaway hair growth.
How does she do that?
She just, uses her magic. She's got this way of taking control, even in the most bizarre circumstances. And then she instructs Ethel to fetch some scissors. Mildred's hair is, well, salvaged, kind of. It's not exactly stylish, but at least it's not growing anymore. And poor Tabby, he's understandably terrified after his unexpected flight.
I bet. I mean, who wouldn't be?
So the next morning, Tabby is understandably a bit clingy. He doesn't want to let Mildred out of his sight. And then Miss Granite announces that it's time for, wait for it, cat and broomstick practice in the courtyard.
Cat and broomstick practice? Is that even a thing?
Apparently, it is at Miss Cackle's academy. And Mildred, of course, is worried about Tabby. I mean, who can blame her? The Cap's just had a near-death experience involving flying hair.
Yeah, I don't think he's ready for a joyride on a broomstick.
But here's the thing. Miss Granite, instead of, actually leading the lesson, she sits down on a bench, takes out an apple, and starts eating.
Seriously. She's just going to sit there and eat an apple while these kids are trying to fly cats around on broomsticks.
Yep. And then she gets up and asks Ethel to take over the lesson because she's feeling a little tired.
A little tired, that's it.
That's it. It's this complete abdication of responsibility, It sends this message to the students like, well, I guess the rules don't really apply if you're in charge.
Right, like the authority is just this fluid thing that you can just, hand off whenever you want.
And of course, Ethel jumps at the chance to take control. She immediately starts bossing everyone around, especially Mildred.
I can see her now with that little smirk on her face, relishing every moment of power.
And the interesting thing is, Enid and Maud, they actually start to miss Miss Hardbroom. They say that even her strictness was better than this.
Wow, that's really saying something.
It is. It suggests that even strict authority, if it's consistent, can be preferable to this kind of unpredictable, hands-off approach.
It's like they need some kind of structure, some kind of guidance.
Exactly. And then Ethel does something that just shocks everyone. She snatches Tabby from Mildred and takes off on her broomstick, heading straight for the roof turrets.
No way. She actually kidnapped Tabby.
She did. And Mildred is frantic, of course. She loves Tabby and she's determined to get him back. It really highlights the contrast between them, Mildred's deep loyalty to her cat versus Ethel's, well, lack of concern.
It makes you wonder what's really going on with Ethel, right? Like, what's her motivation here?
Exactly. There's a lot more to her than meets the eye. This reminds me of a channel I came across on YouTube. It's called Mindful Moments in our podcasts. And they do these really insightful analyses of audiobooks and stories, really digging into those deeper meanings and character motivations.
Sounds interesting.
It is. Anyway, back to the story. Mildred, Maud, and Enid take off on their broomsticks and race across the rooftops, searching for Ethel and Tabby.
It's like a magical game of hide and seek.
It is. And Mildred, she's starting to figure out Ethel's game. She suspects that Ethel's hiding, waiting for them to give up and go away.
Which is pretty clever, actually.
It is. But then Mildred spots them. Ethel standing on a rooftop with Tabby clinging precariously to her broomstick.
Oh, poor Tabby.
Mildred, she doesn't hesitate. She lunges for Tabby, trying to grab him. But in the process, she loses her balance and falls. And her new broomstick, well, goes clattering off the roof.
This is like disaster after disaster.
It is. But here's the twist. Ethel, the one who started this whole mess, actually catches Mildred mid-fall.
Wait, seriously? Ethel saved her.
She did. It's this unexpected act of, well, maybe reluctant heroism. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, there's more to Ethel than we initially thought.
Like she's not all bad.
Exactly. But Mildred's focus is still on Tabby, who's still stuck on the roof.
Of course. I mean, that's her priority.
And it highlights, again, that difference in their personalities. Mildred's genuine concern for Tabby versus Ethel's, well, indifference.
Yeah, like Ethel's just annoyed that she had to save Mildred.
Exactly. So Mildred lands in the courtyard, still clinging to Ethel, and she's mortified. She's embarrassed, frustrated because her broomstick is broken, and just generally feeling like everything is going wrong. And her main thought, she just wishes Miss Granite would take charge.
Yeah, like where is the adult in all this?
Exactly. It emphasizes that need for, some kind of authority, some kind of guidance.
So what happens to Tabby?
Well, Mildred borrows Maud's broomstick and goes searching for him, and she finds him in the most unexpected place, Miss Granite's room.
What? Why is Tabby in Miss Granite's room?
That's the million-dollar question. And just then, as if on cue, Miss Granite appears. And it's like a completely different person has walked into the room. It's like suddenly she's channeling Miss Hardbroom.
Wait, seriously? Miss Laidback is now Miss Stern.
It's bizarre. She's all serious and stern, and she starts questioning Mildred about being in an out-of-bounds area.
It's like a switch just flipped.
And the tone of her voice, it's menacing. It sends chills down your spine. She says, "I hope you weren't snooping, Mildred Hubble. I hope you weren't spying on me."
Creepy.
Very creepy. It's like this sudden glimpse behind the curtain, and it's not pretty.
So what does she do with Tabby?
She refuses to give him back right away. And then, just like that, she dismisses the class for lunch, leaving everyone with this, unsettling feeling that something is definitely not right.
So what do we make of Miss Granite? I mean, she starts out as this, like, totally chill, free-spirited teacher, but then she turns into this, well, kind of scary figure. What's the deal?
It's a great question. Is she just, eccentric? Or is there something more going on, something we haven't quite figured out yet? It's one of those things that makes you think, right?
Definitely. And it raises so many questions about, how we perceive authority. Like, what happens when someone who's supposed to be in charge just, well, doesn't act like it?
Right. We see how a hands-off approach, something that seems positive at first, can quickly lead to chaos without proper guidance.
And it reminds us that even well-intentioned actions, like Ethel's attempt to fix Mildred's hair, can have unintended and pretty dramatic consequences.
Absolutely. So what kind of environment really allows people to thrive? What's the right balance between freedom and structure? These are things worth pondering.
And if this little glimpse into the magical world of Miss Cackle's Academy has left you wanting more,
Yeah.
well, we encourage you to dive into Jill Murphy's book yourself. You can find a link in the show notes.
And most importantly, keep those brains buzzing. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep thinking critically about the stories you encounter. You never know what fascinating insights you might uncover.
Until next time, happy reading.